Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Microsoft Reactor workshop this evening. My name is Erika, and I am the program manager at Microsoft Reactor Stockholm. Today, we continue with the fourth episode of the 12-episode event series around the world of Power BI in 80 days, a journey through the data platform. This series will provide you with a 360 overview of how to use Power BI to build impactful reports. Through hands-on workshops, you'll discover how to transform and visualize your data and go from zero to hero just in 12 weeks. The first 4 episodes in this series are designed for beginners to help you get started with Power BI. The content will become more and more advanced as the course progresses through the Power BI journey. Our host has prepared some resources for you to be able to get the maximum out of this session today. So to receive that, please check in via the link above and use the event ID 14381. I will also drop this link into the chat just in a minute. But before we begin, just a very, very quick word about the Microsoft Code of Conduct. We all come from different backgrounds, so let's just be aware of each other, be friendly and patient. After all, we are all here to learn. And thank you for that. But now let's move on to the reason why we are all here today. In today's session, we are joined by Laura Graham-Brown. Laura has over 20 years of experience at being passionate about training, solving problems, and loving a new challenge. She has worked with huge corporates, from huge corporates to small startups and businesses, and helping them to make SharePoint, Flow, Power Apps, Power BI, and Office solve their business needs. In the 4th episode of this series, we will focus on data flows. And with that, you will learn how data flows can improve your data ecosystem, creating reusable transformations and limit the impact against databases for security and performance. We will cover the difference between pro and premium workspace-based data flows and how to make the best use of your data flows. This session will run for approximately 45 minutes with some time question at the end, but you are more than welcome to ask your questions throughout the session, and Laura will be at your help. But now, let's welcome you, Laura, I think. Hi, and thank you for joining us today and hosting this session for us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think it is time, just to hand over the word to you, sorry. I will switch off my camera, but I will be at the background listening if I am needed. You're up.
Thank you for a great introduction. So I'm hoping, has that shared? No, that has not shared my screen.
No, because I had to share mine.
Okay, so welcome to my session on Power BI data flows. So a great introduction just given me. I'll cover this very briefly. My name is Laura Graham-Brown, but Graham-Brown is way too long, so I'm Laura GB in most places. I'm active on Twitter, so Laura_GB. I have a blog called Hatful of Data .blog, and I'm also a Microsoft MVP for business applications, which includes Power BI. So I've also been a trainer for a long, long time, so please do feel free to interrupt and ask some questions. I will defer questions that are slightly off topic to the end of the session. So data flows, why are we doing it? Why are we bothering? So if you've built any Power BI reports, you've done that part in Power Query, even if it's just some really, really simple little parts in Power Query. But if you're repeating that, your data flows, the Power Query will be repeated for multiple reports. And sometimes that transformation is really quite complicated. and there's some really quite big transformations happening in there. And also you're having to have access to the data, so perhaps logins to databases and things like that. Dataflows allow you to have a reusable transformation. Okay, so that you can give them access to your data flow, but not necessarily give them access to the raw database. Okay, so promoting reusability, stopping the impact on databases. Okay, so we're trying to make it so you've got something that's very reusable, and I'm very keen on that as a concept. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I'm going to build a really simple little data flow that works, and I'm going to make sure that I show you how we can use that data flow inside a Power BI report, and we're also going to have a look at how you can refresh that data flow. Okay, so let's move on. See, that's the slides done. Okay, but there are some really good resources that will give you a lot more guidance. I've created a data flow series a while ago, and I've also given you links to Matthew Roche's blog, which is Matthew Roche is the guy inside Microsoft who we all claim owns Dataflows. He is the Dataflows man there. And also the wonderful guy in the Cube have also done some things with it, which include Matthew Roche again, because they work with him. So let's move across to Power BI service. And of course, it's gone in the wrong window. Let's move that window back down here. There we go. So here we are. I'm in a Power BI workspace. Okay. Now, there are going to be a couple of things I show later, which will require premium things. But so I am in a premium workspace, but it could be a premium per user. But the basics I'm going to show you today don't have to be. So let's go for a new. So under here, there's new. You have to do this all online. You can't do this in Power BI Desktop. So here's our data flow. And up comes our. Wait a minute, let me just hide that. There we go. So up comes our part here that shows you the different ways that you could do it. Okay, and we're going to stick with the define our new tables. That's where we're going to come from. You can link to other data flows if you've got a premium space. So we're not going to do that today. But you also could export and import one from another workspace. So that's another way of doing it. And there's the common data model. But we're going to stick today, because we're doing introduction things, at looking at adding new tables. So just like in Power BI, we have a whole set of data sources that we can get to. And one of the things to understand here is they cannot be local. It's already in the cloud, so your data sources have to be in the cloud as well. So if you're going for an Excel workbook, it has to be one that there is access to either with a gateway or it's on OneDrive or SharePoint. So that's what we're looking at there. Okay. And there are new ones being added to this at various points, and you can go across the top here into the Power Platform, and there's our databases, etc. Or indeed, if you go for all categories, we can search. So let's go to SQL. So we're going to go for today. I'm just going to go to an SQL database. And it's going to ask me for details. I'm just going to look. So my apologies that I'm looking up, but it's my screen is up on the wall at the moment, my second screen. So let's put in that one into there, my server name. My database is called Plant Sales. And there we go. I'm just connecting up. So whatever your data source is, and if it's internal, I said internal server, you could go through a gateway. And here we are, we're into our Power Query. Sorry, our database, and we can pick which ones we want to bring in. So there's my list of customers. So I'm going to bring in all 4 tables. We might not need them all, but I'm going to bring them all in to begin with. And you can pick them. I've got these ones up here are queries. I'm then going to click Transform. So this is the equivalent of pressing your transform when you're loading it into Power BI. Okay. I'm just going to let it load up. Okay. Now, one of the things you have to understand is it's a little slower than Power BI. And I'm just going to turn off the view at the top there, this diagram view. We'll come to that a little later. So if we look in here, you can see your tables. Okay, so here are the tables we've got there, and it can load the data. If we look over here on the right, just like in Power Query inside of Excel or Power BI, we've got our steps that we've added. So let's go back to our customers for a moment. And there we go. We can, my apologies for those that do want biscuits here. I have to remember, I have to admit that I went off that one. I've gone to plants. We're not doing biscuits. I saw the comment up there about somebody wanting a biscuit. Right. So here we are in this one here. We've got very similar to ribbons to how we've got in Power Query. You'll recognize, if you've played in Power Query, you'll recognize some of these buttons. And so there is the choose columns. Okay. Please don't do remove columns. Always pick your choose columns. It's a better way to do it. So we're going to go to choose. So I'm going to go for here. Let's say in my reporting, I don't want to give my customers addresses out. I just want customer names, which we don't need the customer addresses. So let's make this data set smaller. So I can go into here, choose columns, and unpick the ones that I don't think they need, and then click OK. So there we are. We've got it just like you'd get in Power Query. There's one difference here than Power Query. If we look over here on the right-hand side, we've got the steps as you'd expect. Okay, there's a few little changes. The cross isn't here like it is in Power Query online, and you've got these little symbols here that are, there's a little green symbol there. I'll show you one that's red in a moment. And what it means is, if you hover over it, you see it says this step will be evaluated by the data source. So what that means is it can send that whole query back to the data source, which is the best place to do this steps, and it can send it back as one query. Another way to see it is to right click on there and the view the data. If you can do view data source query, you know it's can be what's referred to as query folding, sent back to the query. So there we are. It's a really simple SQL statement. If you don't understand SQL, that's what it is. That's what that writing is there. And so that's what that part's doing. And a little later, I will show you one that turns red as to why that's there as well. So let's look at some of the other things we can do in here. So we can also do, so I've got my customers, I've got some order items. I want to simplify down this report. So I don't need all my orders information, let's say I want my order items. So my order items are the items a row on the, let me turn off Teams. My apologies. I had not turned off Teams. A hint to everybody when presenting, turn off Teams, quit Teams. There we go. Apologies. So when we're in here, we can turn and say, well, actually, the only thing we ever want to know is the order date and which customer. I don't want to know about the rest of it. Okay, so I want to put that data into my order item rows. That's what we're going to do. I want to add those two columns. I'm going to show you how to do that. And that will mean that orders I don't need to load. So let's just do that part, okay? So I want to do what's called a merge. I don't know if you've done merges already, but I'm going to try and keep it really simple. So in this table here, we want to be able to go and fetch that column and that column. That's what we're doing. So in our order items, on our home ribbon, we're going to come up here to merge queries. Okay, click on there, and it says, okay, fine, order items, that's fine. Then let's find, well, what's the table you want to add in? Well, I want to add in orders. Okay, and it's going, well, that order number there, which two columns match? Okay, so I've got order number there, and I've got order number there. So those two match, right? And down here, it's showing which version of the data do you want. 90% of the time, 99% probably, it's left outer. So let's just stick to that. I want all my order items. And let's click OK. And you can see down here, you've got your little merged queries, and it's got a little symbol next to it showing what's happening. And it's still green. That's good news. Okay, so let's expand that order tables. Okay, and we're just going to go for, we don't want any of those bits. And I don't want the prefix. So I just want those 2 columns. So there we are. We've got our data. Nice and simple. Okay. So let's go into here. So that orders table now we don't want. Well, it needs to be in here, but we don't want it to be exposed to our reporting. So just like you can in Power Query in desktop, we can do a right click and say, well, don't load it. Okay. So that's now given us a set of tables here, right? And let's have a look at our plant data just for a second, right? So this has come from a database, so it's reasonably clean data. In a data flow, you cannot leave any A, B, C, 1, 2, 3s up in these top lefts, okay? You have to make sure everything's got a data type, okay? So we can see all those parts go through. Now, what I want to show you is, and we can do calculated columns, we can do all sorts of things if you wanted to, but what I'm going to do is I am going to show you what it looks like when we're saved, and then we're going to, in Power BI, we're going to come in here and see if we can connect to it, right? So let's do a save and close. And up comes validating. And it has to validate, and they've sped that up an awful lot. A while ago, it was kind of like you'd do the save and close, and you'd go make a cup of tea. So this is, we're going to call plant sales, and you might want to put a description in. I'm not going to, which is bad practice, but time. We've got limited time. Right. Now, what you need to understand here is it's appeared, it's here. Okay, and if I go back into my my workspace, let's do a quick search for plant. We'll ignore the pagination report that I've got there from another demo, my apologies. But here we are, there's plant sales, and that's the little symbol for a data flow. But if you look, it has never been refreshed. If I connected to that now, it would have no data in it. It has to refresh at least once. So let's make sure it can refresh by clicking the refresh button. And there we are, it's refreshed. So let's prove, so we'll come back in a moment to scheduling refreshes and things we could do in there, but let's prove that we can connect to it. So it's the LoRa GB workspace, and it's called plant sales. So let's switch over to Power BI. I'm just going to make sure that I'm logged in as the right person. Yep, I am. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a get data. And there we are, there are Power BI data flows. Okay, so they're in the list that's here. Unfortunately, they're not at the top, but there they are, Power BI data flows. That is concerning. I cannot see it. That is very bizarre. My apologies. I did a check earlier that I could see these things, and let me just quickly go and have a look back in this one here. And that one's not there either. My apologies. Let's see what we can do. Let's go and do get data. See, I don't even think that one exists. My apologies. Let me just quickly go and check one thing. That my data flows Okay, let's try that again, shall we? Let's go and get my data. My apologies. What's happened there was I had credentials to another system loaded. So what I'm just going to do is bring in my Power BI data flows again. And there we go. It's going to ask me to sign in. I'm hoping it's just going to let me sign in. And I am going to have to, my apology, let's just do this, and I'll just take it off this screen. Never type a password in when you've got other people watching. You're bound to get it wrong. Take that off the screen. And just copy in. There we go. And let's connect. So the first time you connect up to a data flow, it's going to ask you to sign in, and then it's going to give you your data flows. So there we go. We've got our data flows there. And if I look in Laura GP, there we go. Sorry, biscuits again. And there's my plant sales. And if you see, you can see. So actually, when you are doing this, what you can your users don't have to pick every table. If they don't want every table, they don't have to have it. Okay, so my order items here, they can turn around and say, well, actually, do you know what? I don't care about customers, so I don't need to bring them in. But I can bring in all my data there. And if you look, you could also transform. So you could add extra steps on top of what the data flow is doing already. Okay, so that you can, so you're just giving your users a base set of the data, or you're giving yourself a base set of the data. And so that any of the complications that have been done behind the scenes, you don't have to surface in every report. They can just happen at the data flow level. Now, the other advantage here is that I can set it so the data flow, let's say the data flow refreshes once a day, but my Power BI report, because using multiple things or whatever, could refresh more often if I've got other data sources in here. So there we are. I've managed to get in my my data. Now, the issue I've got here is that I haven't necessarily got my relationships set up in here because it hasn't quite picked them up. They're not named up amazingly well. But there we are. We've managed to bring in our data from our data flow. Okay, so we went to get data. We went to Power BI data flows and connected to pick them up. So if we switch back to our data flow, okay, there's a couple of things. So that's the very basics, okay? We created a data flow and we've proven we can connect to it in our Power BI, which is what we're after here, okay? But the person connecting to this one here didn't have to put in any database details. They didn't have to know where the database was. They didn't have to know the passwords or anything like that. They just needed permission to get to this data flow. Okay, so let's go back in. I just want to show you a couple of other things inside data flows. So if we're going to click edit, and edit tables. So once you've got your little data flows here, okay, and we can put in a number of things into here. We did some choosing columns. We did a merge, and we expanded some columns. We also could do calculations and things like that if we wanted to. And if you wanted to see what is dependent upon what, you can come up into the view ribbon, which is they've added a new part in here, which is the diagram view. Okay, so let's just hide the data for a second on the screen. And so there you are, you can see the ones that have got a blue line down the side are the ones that are exposed. The one with the grey line there, the orders, is not exposed. It's just being used in the calculations. And you can click on like the 3 steps there to see what they are with labels. Okay, so that actually, and if you click on there, it collapses it. Okay, so you can see, and this actually sometimes is a brilliant way to show what's going on inside inside the processing of the different sources being fed in to different things. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to show you an extra feature into here. Let me just quickly check we haven't got any questions in a minute. That's cool. So what we're going to do next is let's just show another thing we can do inside Power Query, and we'll also see how it appears on the diagram. And then we also need to have a look at doing refreshing and how we set that up and how that's going to work. So I just want to show one simple part about adding a parameter in here because it's quite a useful one to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn and say, well, do you know these order dates go back all the way back to 2019? I don't really want those. I want things from the 1st of January this year. So let's just add in a start date. So under my manage parameters here, I'm going to add a new parameter. I'm going to call it start date. And it's a date. Okay, so that makes it quite simple. And let's put in 01/01/2021. Okay, and then let's click OK. And you'll then see in here we've got a start date appear. Let's just get rid of that diagram just for a second. You've got a start date appeared down here. So what we're going to do is we are going to limit our order items. So let's come into here, do a drop down, and date filters after. And actually, you can find that a little bit better, just in case we had any on the 1st of January, is after or equal to. And then here, there's a little drop down that says, do you want to enter a value or select a parameter? And I can pick start date. And we can then click OK. So there we are, it's filtered it. And if we have a look in our steps over on the side here, look, it's managed to give us steps. And oh, look, the green line has continued all the way down. So that means it can all be fed through. And if we look at our diagram, you can see that there is a line from our start date. It's fed into this report so that we can see what's dependent upon what. That's quite important to understand. Okay. So one of the things I mentioned earlier was about the fact that we've still got a green line. That green line is good, and you want that green line to go as long as possible. It doesn't always last forever, but it's worth having. Okay. So one of the things we could do is turn around and say, well, actually, how old is our orders? So if I highlight that column there, I can add a column that'll just give me the age of that order. So every time it refreshes, it will update it. So I could put in there, just give me the age. And there you are, it's deciding whether that can be a red or a green thing. It's taking its time. And there you are, it's come up as green, okay? But actually it comes up as a duration. You might not want it to be a duration. You might turn around and say, which is days, hours, minutes, seconds, etc. You might turn and say, you know, we really don't care about that. We want it to just be how many days. So I click on there to do a change type, and I turn around and say, well, let's make it a whole number. And you can see the symbols down here gives you an indication of what the different actions are. I just give that a moment to work itself out. And there we are. There is our first red step. So if I hover over it, it says outside the data source. So what the data source will do is give us all the way up to there, and then the red things happen. The only reason I'm pointing those out is you put the red steps to be last. Okay, and this is called query folding. And if any of you are, so once you've done your 12 sessions here, if you're looking for other challenges and other ways to expand your knowledge, and you enjoy Power Query, I strongly recommend you go out and find the 30-day Power Query query folding challenge by Alex Powers. I think it's Alex Powers. It's one of the Alexes in Microsoft. It's one of the Alexes in the Microsoft Power BI team, and it's brilliant because it teaches you really, really the good bits, the good things to do inside here, which will make your queries faster. Okay, so that's an important part to understand. Before we do a save and close in here, the other thing I want to talk about is some of your data sources. I deal with really small data sources here. Some of your data sources will take a long time to load. The wheel will be going around forever and thinking, every change I do, I've got to wait for the data. It's hard work, etc., etc. So to help us with that, they came up with a new view, which I'm assuming will eventually come to desktop. But at the moment, the online version gets all the new toys. And this is the Schema View. And the Schema View will give you just a list of columns. So then you can do things like pick a column and do things. So I can do things like I can do a right click on it and duplicate it. I'm going to remove that in a second, but there we go. It's copied, and that can just happen in here. And the data doesn't all have to be drawn in. And then you can choose to go back to the data view once maybe you've added half a dozen steps, etc. Okay. Unfortunately, just like in Power Query, if I go and delete a step, there is no undo. You delete a step, it's gone. Okay. But if you ever want to take backups of these things, there is the advanced editor. I don't suggest you worry about what this contains, but you can copy and paste it into Notepad so that you've got a backup, is one way of doing it, right? So once I've done my changes, I've got everything ready, I'm happy with what's there. Let's press save and close. Moment to validate. And the more complicated your queries are, the longer validation will take. Okay, now it asks you about refresh schedule, but this only comes up now, so I'm not going to use that method. Okay, I'm going to show you the way to do it afterwards. So if I go back into the workspace and let's search a plant again. There we go, there's my plant sales. I can now come into here. So there's a number of things we can do. So if I go down to settings, okay, in here is what I logged into my database as. The only person that can see that, though, and change it is the person who owns the data flow. So if somebody else owned this data flow, they wouldn't be able to come in here and see these. Somebody else was looking at it, They wouldn't be able to get in here and do those things. And if they wanted to, they could try and take over, but they've then got to log in again themselves. So let's go for the scheduled refresh, which is just the same as it is for a Power BI dataset. So I can turn it on. I can say how often I want it. So daily means it happens every day. Weekly has the advantage that I can turn around and say, I just want it to happen on my weekdays maybe. Doesn't need to happen Saturday, Sunday. And then you add the times in. So let's say we're going to have it happen at 8 o'clock every morning. And I could add more times. If you are in a standard workspace, you can only do it 8 times a day. If you are in a premium workspace, you can do it 48 times a day. One of the new changes they added in recently was if it fails, who's it gonna email? So the Dataflow owner, and you could also add in some other contacts as well. And then we click apply. And we can go back to our workspace here. I wish I remembered the searches, but never mind. And there we are. So there we go. It refreshed today, and it's due to refresh tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'm sure I put 8 o'clock. I will check. I think at the 8 o'clock was possibly in UTC time, and I'm in the UK, so we're still in British summertime at the moment. So that might be the issue. Can't guarantee that, but that's where I would go. The other thing to be aware of, if you remember when I went in here and I went to get data and I went to the data flows, this one up here, sorry, biscuits again, guys, has got a little promoted label. So if you've got data flows you want people to use, you should be promoting them. Okay, but not everything. Just so that's the case of use this one rather than this one. Okay, I've got 2 project datas. I might have which one I'm going to promote, right? So if I come back into here, we can go to properties again. Sorry, settings. And under endorsement, okay, I could go for promoted. Now, if your company has allowed, and now everybody can promote, that's not something that is restricted. Certified is usually only for the Power BI admins. And here I for this workspace, I am, for this area, I am in the Power BI admins, so therefore I can go for certified. But so let's have a look at what that one would look like. So if I click apply, and then go back into here. Let's go and have a look for the plant. And there you are. It's got a little label that says certified. And let's go into Power BI and do another get data. Might need to do a quick refresh. There they are. It's come through as certified. So promoted just has to be an owner. Certified normally in a company would be a particular group of people who are allowed to certify. Okay, so that's where those ones are coming in, and that's what I would recommend if you're writing some nice big data flows that are to be used for lots of people. Promote them so that people can find them quickly. So let's go back into our data flows. Now, I want to show you one thing here that we can do but has to be premium. Okay, so if I go for a new data flow, and this is just to prove that it works. Okay. Link tables from other data flows. You must be in premium to have this. This feature isn't even there if you're not in premium. So let's just do a quick sign in. That is not the password. Way too long. And then we click next. And there you are, it shows me now the data flows that I could go to. So we're going to go exactly the same one. So there's my plant sales. And I could say from plant sales, let's just bring in customers, okay? And transform the data. And you see it says up here that you can't modify. So what they're expecting you to do is to actually go and have a query that's based off this one. This is one way of running it. And if you refresh the initial data flow, they'll all refresh. Okay, so you can have a whole chain of data flows coming in, and you can give different people permission to different data flows and work it through that. But you can build a whole self-service, reusable set of models, okay, that are pick the most common things happening in your organization that you might want to report off, that you don't have to repeat. Okay, so if you've got like 5 reports, all doing exactly the same all doing almost exactly the same stuff with the transformations, that's where you might want to bring in a data flow to sort that out, to make it easier. Or if you're the DBA and you don't want everybody having access to the password of your database, bringing in a data flow means only the data flow owner's got to have an access to the database. So that makes it easier in that regards as well. Okay, so the whole data flows idea is really to make it so that you're not impacting databases too much. It's some nice governance in there so that you only have to have access. Oh, it said please close. Let's just do a save and close. And it's nice and easy. So it says let's call this plants 2. There we go. And there you are, you can see that's a linked table. So that's what showing you where it's come from. But that's the idea of data flows, is that they make it nice and easy for you to get access to a database. My DBAs do not like giving out user IDs to everybody, to the data. So they do it. So I turn around and say, well, we'll just do one data flow, and I'll give people access to that data flow, and then they can go from there. So let me talk through. Let me just quickly switch back to the slides for a second, because I do have one more slide. And that slide is basically to talk you through some of the resources that are out there. So I did a while ago on my blog, I did a Dataflow series. There's a couple more posts that need to be written to go on the end of there, but they will be going out. And I will publicize those through Twitter and through LinkedIn. Mr. Roche, Matthew is if you ever get to hear him present, he is incredibly good at it. He's very good at what he does. And it's Deep Thoughts on Data Flows. And that's a blog post to a video he did with another guy. He was on the show. Microsoft have also got an introduction to the transforming and using data flows inside your transform model. And then, of course, GynaCube. Adam and Patrick do an amazing job. And literally all I've done in here is query it down to data flows. They've got a number of resources out there that are being used. And the Power Query team any updates that happen to the Power Query models happen to data flows first nowadays. Okay, so they happen there rather than and then later on they will happen to Power Query desktop. Okay, a bit like Excel and Word in those situations as well at the moment. Excel Online is just one step ahead. So I'm expecting those nice pretty diagrams to come into the visuals inside Power Query, but they're not there yet. You have to go up to data flows to do that. So do we have any questions? Or have I bamboozled everybody? Please do reach. Sorry, I'm just having a quick check in the chat there. There don't appear to be any questions, do there, Erica?
Hi, thank you. Thanks. No, not yet. So
If
if you
you if
guys
you
have,
haven't if you have
sorry.
any questions after the event, guys, please do feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or on LinkedIn. The name's Laura Graham Brown.
Oh, we do have a question. Let's bring this up here.
What about Excel? Can they use a Dataflow to do some reports? Okay. So at the moment, no, I don't think the current version of Excel can connect to a Dataflow yet, but it is on the roadmap. It's possibly in a preview version. If you are on the I can't remember what it's called now, the Insights track for Excel, it might be there already, but it's coming. It's coming, so they can connect to those. Google Sheets. So Google Sheets probably can't connect directly to a Dataflow, but whether Dataflow can connect to Google Sheets, I honestly don't know that one. I don't remember seeing it on the list of possibles being able to connect there. With regards to going back to Excel just for a second, what you can do is Dataflow and Excel. Dataflow to a data set, and then so the data set can get into Power BI. I don't think they've quite expanded that to Dataflows yet. I don't think Google Sheets can. What are your thoughts on the position of Dataflows within a large enterprise? Sorry, I'm not an answer. Erica's trying to cope with which questions I'm thinking. So when we think about how data flows within a large enterprise, so normally when Power BI starts in an organization, everybody creates their own little Power BI reports, and that's how it works, and that's how and there's hundreds of data sets, and every single data set has one report hanging off it. When you move on, kind of the next stage up is probably there are small teams who've worked out they've all using the same data. They could all use the same data set, so they all connect to the same data set. The next step up from that in a large organization is to take some of the most common transformations that are happening and move them into data flows. So they are very much a part of creating the center of excellence for Power BI. And Mr. Roche, again, there are other people in the Power BI team, but he's coming up again with one of the MVPs out there, a lady called forgotten her names now, Melissa Coates. Between them both, they have come up with a center of excellence, and that certainly includes the use of data flows and how it can make your whole Power BI a lot more self-service, rather than you having to cope with everybody building their own transformations. So that's where data flows can really, and bringing in some certified data flows. So this is the data flow to get HR data, as in your list of employees, or this is the one to get the customer list for our organization, rather than everybody having their own little version. Okay. So,
sorry.
Moving on to Stephen's next statement.
Yeah.
Currently has SQL Server and are moving to Snowflake in the future. So one of the wonderful things you could do here with a data flow is that if you're moving your data source from one place to another place, it might not totally work in here, but what you could have is a data flow that's out there that's being used by various people, and it's got one database. And then the person who owns that data flow knows the data's moving. So they go into the data flow, change the data flow so that it still has the same tables exposed, but the original source has changed. And then just refresh. And if they've done it well and cleverly and carefully, the users will never notice the difference because they're connected to the data flow, and the data flow has the same data coming out of it. So therefore they won't notice. And I've actually seen a team do it. They were moving from on-prem to cloud SQL Server. So and they did it over a weekend, and all the reports refreshed for Monday morning reporting, and it was magic. They had one instance where there was a slight issue because a column had changed name for some weird reason, but that was it. And they had like 200 reports all refreshed the next morning, absolutely magically, because a data flow had been used rather than having to send out to all the report builders, please change your reports. Yeah, exactly, Stephen. Then the next comment Stephen said with gun, easier to reconnect if the underlying data sources change. And that is exactly one of the things. It's one of the wonderful things about data flows. And you can simplify it. So one of the big projects I did was connecting up to Microsoft Project Data, which is horrible, to put it very plainly. And we used a data flow to simplify it down to make it a usable data source for our report builders who didn't want to know about all the ins and outs of how Project does the amazing job it does, but has a database which is interesting. Let's put it that way. I'll be too worried about it. But so yeah, that's one of the reasons why I use data flows. That's one of the reasons why I learned about data flows, was to help in that situation. So yeah, Stephen, it's exactly what we're coming up with there, and I think it should be part of an organisation's plan for a data culture. And Stephen, if that's the situation you're in, really please do go and look for the things that have been put out recently about the Centre of Excellence for Power BI, because that's got some fantastic resources in there. And if you can't find it, reach out to me and I will point you in the right directions. And especially SQL Chick is the lady who, that's her Twitter handle, is the lady involved. Any other questions?
Thank you so far. And yes, guys, if you have any other questions, please ask them. I do have one question though.
Go for it.
Yeah, Laura, as you know, the whole point of this series is to go from zero to hero. So I believe most of the audience is beginner at the beginner level right now. I'd like you to tell the audience your pro tip at Power BI and how to kickstart their career or their knowledge of Power BI. Do you have some secrets, something that you feel that you need to share and that could help them?
Yep. Got a couple of things, and they're not necessarily related to data flows. Okay, so this is I have been doing what I call business automated business intelligence for my whole career. That's been my career. Most of my career has been, Laura, we've got this report that takes 5 hours to produce. We'd like a button. And so that has been all the way through lots of different versions of Excel, lots of different versions of all sorts of different reporting things, and now is 99% Power BI. So when you are working out a reporting, actually go and find out what report they need. Go find out actually what question are they trying to answer. And if you can answer it, what's the benefit of answering that question? Okay, so that by you understanding what those two things are, you can then give reports that mean something. So not just a page full of visuals, but actually a report that means something. Okay, to make it, just keep it, work out the two questions you want to answer for this one report. Make it really simple like that. And if need be, turn around to your users and turn around to your customer, whoever they are, whether that customer is you or somebody else in your business or an external customer, is what do you need to know and why do you need to know it? Okay, and by that, expand out the knowledge of so that you understand what you're trying to do. The other thing is to understand your strengths. There will be some of you that look at Power Query and go, I never want to touch it because it's horrible. There'll be some of you who like it a lot, okay? And for those of you that don't like Power Query, I apologize for today's session. It was only Power Query. There'll be some of you that look at DAX and go, yeah, I'm really excited about getting measures right, etc., and knowing all of that. And then there'll be some of you who are just superb at the visual side. Understand where you are strong and put that as your career focus. And yes, you need to know the other parts to a certain level, but actually, if you are looking to build a CV, looking to build a set of skills, whether that CV is for internal or for you're looking for a new job or whatever, it doesn't matter. Work out what you're actually really good at. And by the way, there are lots of us geeks who are very good at the Power Query and the DAX. If you are skilled at visuals, if you understand how to lay out a page to look good, please put that out there. We are short of you. We really are. And by the way, we are short of Power BI people. Full stop. I could fill my diary. I recently stopped being a freelancer and joined a company. But previous to that, I was a freelancer. I was turning work away for my Power BI skills. Okay, so go and learn your Power BI skills. Make sure you're confident in what you're doing and understand which area is your speciality. Okay. And I'm sure other presenters are going to tell you exactly the same things. So Guy and Acube are awesome. They're amazing. Microsoft Learn is, and by the way, I'm not paid by Microsoft in any way or shape to say this. Microsoft Learn is absolutely superb at what they do. The MVPs, we're a whole bunch of people out there that create material. There is lots of stuff out there. We all have got things out there to help you create stuff and things. And if you can't find it, believe me, one of us will have a video out there or a blog out there that will help you. And the other set of people are the Italians. Not all the Italians, but there's Marco and Alberto run a website called SQLBI. If you like DAX, and if you can find somebody that will give you a budget to pay for some of the training they do, it's amazing. If not, go for the free stuff they do, because that's pretty amazing. It's absolutely awesome. They do some really good stuff out there. And go and find us. There's a whole bunch of us out there that are willing to help and willing to point in the right directions. And we'll give you content. Okay, so come and make use of the Power BI community. I'm not paid to say this, and I realize I am part of the community, but we are awesome. And we have some awesome stuff out there. And there are free conferences going on left, right, and center. Go find them. And go and find people to talk to.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we can share your social as well, the slide with your socials.
Yes.
So that's. I'm just adding that back to the stream. Yeah, maybe you can bring this up. But thank you, super impactful.
Can you put up the message from Stephen Fortier?
Oh, yes.
He's just put up there.
Yeah.
Because that one is awesome.
Yes.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, my headphones went really bizarre. But that is so the free courses, Intro to DAX and Data Modeling from the SQLBI guys is right. Stephen Fortier is totally right there, and that's where I would go to start with. And the Guy in the Cube, there's also all sorts of Power Query stuff out there. If you get stuck or you need other resources, reach out to us, guys. We are perfectly happy to come and help.
Yes. Yes, a great bunch. I must agree. And the reactor is always here as well to help you guys. You can reach out to us, to the reactor, and then we can direct you to the right direction. So yes, if nobody has any more questions, then I think we will let Laura enjoy the rest of her evening. Probably return to the family from work. Yes, any more questions? Any last minute questions? No. Okay. I will drop here in the chat right away the playlist for the series. That's where you can rewatch the first 3 episodes if you had missed them, and this session is also going to be added within the next 24 hours to this playlist. And yeah, and just for next week, as you know, that we do have another, 8 sessions to go. And next week, from October, we are getting into an intermediate level content. So this is getting a bit hot now. So next week we are going to be talking about conditional formatting in Power BI. At Wednesday, 5 p.m. Swedish time, Central European time, wherever you are, is the same time as it has started today. Yeah. Any last words, Laura? I don't know if you have.
Yeah, it's enjoy it, guys. Really do enjoy
Yes.
it. It's conditional formatting's a cool one. I like that one. You can do
Yes.
lots.
Yes, we will be joined by Parvinder Channa from India, actually. I
Oh,
don't know if you
cool,
know him.
cool.
Do you know
Yeah,
him?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes? Yes,
yeah.
great. Yeah, so yeah, thank you very much, Laura, and thank you guys for joining and for the great conversation and questions. I'm looking forward to see you on next Wednesday as well. Okay? Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.